Chapter 1. New Life. You are listening at FameTV.info. 2005, sitting inside the Shinkansen, bullet train, he understood why the people in this country were so proud of this train. There was no turbulence, and it was very comfortable that he could sleep directly without trouble on this train. The service within this train was also top class, and he couldn't find any faults, which made him stop his plan to complain to get a free ticket. However, even though this train was very comfortable, he was very uncomfortable at that moment. Not because the price of the ticket was expensive, well, in truth, it was quite expensive. However, for his family, it wasn't that much. Staring at the window, he could see the reflection of his face through the window, and no matter how many times he saw his face, he felt a bit weird since he saw a different face from the face that he always saw for the past 24 years. However, he had to admit that his face was pretty handsome. Letting out a long and tired sigh, he wondered why he had been reincarnated to a Japanese student. Shishio Oga. That was his name in this world, and he had accepted his new identity since it had been a month since he had been reincarnated in this boy. Shishio was reincarnated as a Japanese middle school student in Kyoto, and he was in his third year of middle school. Shishio remembered on his first day, when he was reincarnated, he was so confused that he didn't understand anything until the memory of the previous Shishio Oga appeared on his head. It was also because of the memory of the previous Shishio Oga that he was able to learn Japanese along with various knowledge about his family, education, and a lot more. However, even though he received such a memory, he knew that his personality was different from the original Shishio Oga. He didn't want anyone to notice the change in him. Hence, he decided to choose a high school in Tokyo. Shudder when Shishio thought about the memory of the previous Shishio Oga, he couldn't help but shudder. Be engulfed in dark flames, I am the burning fighting fighter, Don T get near me, or you LL be burnt, Shishio put his hand on his face, trying to cover his blush since it was so embarrassing that he wanted to escape to the Gobi Desert, hiding so no one would know about his dark past. However, Shishio knew that it was impossible, and it was also the reason why he decided to move from Kyoto to Tokyo. It was a last-minute decision. Fortunately, his mother S sister was a teacher at a high school in Tokyo, which made him able to register for the entrance exam at the last minute. Looking at his reflection again in the mirror, Shishio wondered why his appearance was quite similar to the character he had seen in his previous life. His eyes were a light purple, and his hair was of the same color. His height was 178 centimeters. However, his body was quite thin, which made him a bit dissatisfied since he felt his body was weak. His appearance is similar to Lancelot in Fate. However, even though this guy was weak, he had a bazooka inside his pants which made him feel relieved. Shishio touched his long light purple hair and felt a bit weird since he knew that his hair color was natural. However, he remembered that there were no people in Asia with purple natural color, where most people had black hair. Mother S hair is also purple, Shishio remembered that many people he had seen in the past month also had various hair colors from blonde, red, blue, etc. He was wondering if there was someone who had a rainbow color of hair in this country. He was curious. Shishio had often watched and read various stories and worked in his previous life and knew that his experience was similar to the protagonist of those stories and work. Unfortunately, Shishio didn't receive a cheat, ghost grandfather, mysterious book, or anything else that would be able to help him in this life. Even so, Shishio didn't think that his life would be miserable. In his previous life, Shishio was a businessman, investor, and trader. Shishio was quite good at searching for opportunities. He knew that there was a lot of business that could be done in 2005, especially technologies. He also knew that there were many opportunities to create a lot of money if he decided to become an investor and a trader. In the past month, Shishio had checked the information about this world and knew that there wasn't /t much difference between this world and his previous world. However, there were a lot of differences in various movies, manga, novels, TV shows, etc., in this world. In this world, Shishio was unable to find famous movies, manga, novels, TV shows, etc., in his previous life, and he knew that it was his chance to create money. Unfortunately, Shishio couldn't /t draw, nor did he feel that he could remember all the famous works that he had watched and read in the past, since he only remembered the famous plot of those famous works, rather than entire works. It was also impossible for him to create a TV show or a movie, considering he had only graduated in middle school and didn't /t have a channel or an ability to create one. However, even if Shishio couldn't /t create that business or copied those famous works, manga, novels, TV shows, or movies, he could go back to Kyoto and work where his father works. He could also work in the bureaucracy, police, JSDF, or banking sector, since his father/s family was working in those areas. His father/s connection was very rich. Rubbing his chin, he was wondering whether he could be called a second rich generation. However, Shishio didn't /t want such a life. Shishio had been given a second chance, and he wanted to do something different. Taking a bottle of green tea that he had bought before he entered the train, he opened the lid, drank the tea, and could taste the bitter taste of the green tea. Shishio knew that he wasn't /t dreaming, and he knew that he had a new life. He put a bottle of green tea on the side of his chair and decided to take a nap. In his sleep, Shishio was grateful that he had been given a second chance. However, there was one thing that made him worried, and that was his knowledge about education, since he didn't /t remember much, and he wondered whether he could learn all that knowledge before the entrance exam. After a few hours, Shishio arrived at the station and walked through a group of people. "Excuse me. I wish to get past." Shishio was wondering how many times he needed to say, "Excuse me." Still, he needed to do so, since from the previous memory of the previous Shishio Oga, he was quite a polite boy, and there was a certain tradition and habit that had ingrained on his body. Even though Shishio wasn't /t Japanese, he was Japanese now. When in Rome, live as the Romans do. That proverb might sound simple, but there were many things that could be learned from it. However, even though he had to agree with the proverb above, he wouldn't /t get used to the habit of bowing his head, and he felt a bit uncomfortable by it. Walking through a group of people, he found an empty bench and sat down, resting for a while. He wasn't /t that tired, since he had taken a nap before, but he needed to contact his aunt since he had arrived at the station. Vibrate. Shishio felt his phone vibrate, and he took out the flip phone from his pocket, which made him let out a sigh. He had always used a smartphone, and it had always felt weird to use a flip phone, but he didn't /t think too much and saw an email from his aunt. "Aunt. The road is quite busy. If you have arrived at the station, wait for me at the entrance of the station first." Shishio replied to his aunt /s email politely, then put his phone back in his pocket. Thinking about his aunt, Shishio wasn't /t sure and felt a bit nervous about his meeting with his aunt, since he didn't /t receive a complete memory of the previous Shishio Oga. He only remembered that his aunt was a little sister of his mother, and she was single. Besides that, he wasn't /t sure whether the relationship between this aunt and the previous Shishio Oga was quite close or not. Shishio was quite bored and decided to study first, since he bought a training book for an exam. Even though he couldn't /t remember much about the lesson during his middle school time, he wasn't /t stupid. He could understand some of them easily, especially English, physics, and mathematics, and science-related problems. However, Shishio was very worried about the history and Japanese problems, since he had never learned such a thing in his previous life, which gave him a huge headache, wondering whether he could succeed on his entrance exam or not. Shishio had made up his mind and decided to use most of his time to learn after he had been accepted into high school since he wanted to enter a prestigious university. Then, what about love? Well, let \s put that matter aside since Shishio didn't \t think that love was important, and it wouldn't \t be too late to think about that matter once he had entered university. Shishio kept learning for an hour or so and couldn't \t help but wonder whether his aunt was trapped in a traffic jam since she was too late. He was wondering whether the road on Tokyo was so busy that it took a very long time for his aunt to pick him up. Hello, are you Shishio Oga? Hearing this voice, Shishio turned his head and saw a beautiful, fashionable woman, staring at him with a smile, with short light purple hair and professional attire. I am Chihiro Sengoku, your aunt, remember to call me Chihiro.ne from now on. Shishio instantly guessed the identity of this woman since this woman really resembled his mother, and he could see a lot of familiarities on her face with her mother. However, he was wondering whether this woman was really in her 30s since she seemed quite young, in his opinion. Hello, Chihiro.ne-san. I am Shishio Oga. Thank you for picking me up even though you \re busy. I will trouble you, and I will be in your care. Shishio bowed his head slightly. After all, it was part of a habit that he had inherited from the previous Shishio Oga, and it was also a habit among the people that lived in this country. However, he felt a bit uncomfortable calling his aunt, Chihiro.ne, directly. Don \t be so polite. I am your aunt. When you were a child, you always asked me to marry you when you had grown up. Why do you treat me as a stranger now? Chihiro patted Shishio \s shoulder with a smile. She hadn't \t seen him for a few years, and he had become so handsome. Even if his hair was long and it even passed his shoulder, rather than giving him a feminine image, it gave him an image of a knight in the storybook. She felt a bit worried and wondered whether there would be many girls and women who would be attracted to him later, and those girls and women might turn him into a playboy. Chihiro thought for a while and decided to protect him from those bad women in the city since she knew that her nephew was quite inexperienced. Haha. Shishio only laughed awkwardly since the one who wanted to marry Chihiro wasn't \t him but rather the previous Shishio Oga. Chihiro was also twice as old as he was. Even though he didn't \t mind, he wasn't \t sure whether aunt and nephew were allowed to marry each other. When Shishio was about to say something, he saw a screen on his mind and also heard a voice. Target has been found. When Shishio was confused by the sudden appearance of the panel on his head, he saw another panel and heard another voice on his mind. Welcome to Scumbag system. The more women you have, the more rewards you will receive. As a starting gift, you have received Japanese food cooking mastery. As the first target has been found, you also receive 500 million yen on your bank account. The journey has only been started. Work hard, young man. Shishio was full of questions on his mind, but then he saw another panel and heard another voice. Don \t be dumbfounded. Use your charm, talent, wealth, etc., to seduce a lot of women. The more women you have, the more rewards you will receive. Listen to the full novel at FameTV.info, direct link in the description.